Let's talk a little bit about some best practices. I talked about Microsoft and Copilot, and it's really pretty cool ability that it's able to reach out and look at your own data set. One of the biggest challenges that they're finding with early adopters of it is the fact that people don't have their permissions set right on their files. Um, Literally, I was at a client's office, it's been probably a month back, maybe 5 or 6 weeks back, and I did a scan on their network to determine like the file shares, the shares they share within the office, and if it had any personal identifiable information, any sensitive data in it, and they were confident it didn't. I scanned, they had, I can't remember, 30 or 40,000 records, social security numbers, next of kin, driver's license, date of birth, address, blah, blah, blah. Very sensitive data. And not only do they have it, it was stored in an unencrypted format, but it was in an in a common share that was open to every employee within the business. So that's a big challenge for when we start to use chat gtp or OpenAI to be able to pull from our own data set, is that we set the permissions right so that it can't pull from data that would be sensitive, i.e., how much does the boss make? Well, if you've got those kind of records in that data set that the AI agent can read, it's going to spit that out to anyone who asks that question within the company. That to me is probably one of the biggest challenges to that. And then who has access to, um, it's very powerful that you could have all those documents at your leisure, if you will, as an employee, but you don't have the ability to take them and analyze them the way that ChatGPT or a language model could do, because you can simply ask a question and it can render the answer, of course, based off the information that is there, but it would take you weeks or whatever to put that type of information by reading all these documents and comparing all these things. Boom. So we're going to place that in the hands of our employees, and now all of a sudden data loss prevention, the ability to retain that information within the company, although they may have had access to all those files for a very long period of time, but they didn't have access to the brain or to the ability to compile it in such a compelling way so quickly and be able to get it out of the company, becomes very very concerning, in the way, in my opinion. And so now, the people that have access to personal drop boxes and being able to just email anybody, coming out of the company, is very much that's heightened. That level of concern is heightened. Here's just some things, and I'm kind of, I want to be on time. I want to respect your time for sure. But here's some things whenever we're talking about AI is we really want to use encryption. And I think everybody's afraid of encryption, or there just seems to be a very big reluctance to encryption. Encryption is so powerful; it's the very type of encryption that the bad guys, the hackers, use on us. And if they use like AES 256-bit encryption with current processing power, we've got thousands of years running before we're going to crack that. So we can take that to our advantage by encrypting our files. And one of the cool things about, I'll go back to Microsoft again, is that Microsoft has the ability to store the key within the Microsoft cloud. Whereas before we were always trying to keep that key somewhere. And without that key, um, that drive or that data cannot be read. So it was always a scary part of, oh, what if you lose the key? Well, Microsoft's really worked through a lot of those kind of things. Another is, again, we talked about the access of who can get into what access controls, as we call them. We're going to have to take a serious look. And AI, and we're not doing it now. I'll be honest with you. We are not doing a good job of maintaining the we'll call essential cyber hygiene for most businesses. They're doing a very poor job. Well, AI, and especially if we, in all forms, whether we use it ourselves to help us become better business people, or whether the bad guys are using it to access our stuff, it's going to put more of a pressure point on the access controls. And one of the answers to that is auditing and monitoring things so that you know when events are happening. And there's tools that are out there that do a very good job of that. So we're going to need to have our minds focused on deploying and implementing and using that type of technology in order to get close to the action, to be close to the incident. And one of the beautiful things about a computer is that it logs everything. And I say that's beautiful because if you know the events that are happening, you can alert off of them. You can say, "Hey, somebody just tried to log in 20 times with my password. I want to know that right now. I don't want to know that after they've been successful or they've had 6 months to grind on my password and then finally get it." So a lot of powerful tools that are out there in auditing and monitoring. And then, of course, not disclosing confidential data, keeping that data where it is secure. Very challenging. Very, very, very challenging. You got to make it really hard for people to get your data out of the building. And like I said earlier, now our data is not only going to get out of the building, but it's going to be refined in a much more effective way to do good or evil, right? I mean, again, in the right hands, it should be able to help us as business owners. Like I said at the very beginning, technology should be an accelerant if it's used properly. And if it's used, of course, improperly, then we're it can be a decelerant or whatever. It can be a drag and actually do a lot of harm. So I want to open it up to questions. Christy, do we have any questions?
Yes, so we did have a couple come in. Sh- Should we look into using Copilot for our team?
I definitely think that Copilot is a very powerful product, and again, just in its free form, it's going to be Chat GTP, not looking at your data, and it's $50 a month, I believe it costs for the professional form. I would be very I wouldn't do it if I was just an average business guy. I wouldn't deploy that without having someone do an analysis of where my data is, look at the permission level, kind of looking through the implications of all of that. And then again, questioning the data loss prevention is kind of the IT term, which just simply means don't let where can your data get away from you easily. I always like to think of it as a physical filing cabinet because most business people, they remember that, or they still probably have them to some degree. Would you allow your people to come into your office and take files and make copies of them and store them at your house, at their house? And the answer is usually no. And I'll tell you why it's bad is because is that now that file is out and you have no way of knowing where it goes and what it does. It's out in the wild and you can never put that genie back in the bottle. And then, I've labored the point, but with the power of AI, the and somebody who's a good questioner, somebody who can ask good questions of that data, um, man, it's going to be like on steroids. All
Okay,
right.
we had two more. Is it safe to allow ChatGPT to be used at our office?
I think Chat GTP. I mean, of course, there could be some ethical things that that people could be. basically using that tool and claiming the writings of their own. There may be some risk in that, but safe as far as from a security standpoint, I don't see a lot of just going to ChatGPT and putting in some prompts and asking some questions and getting some answers. I see a tremendous upside in productivity in trying to even put on classes to train your people. I try to train my guys on using some of that technology um, for solving problems, because again, you think about it from a human perspective, we all, I call it, it's anecdotally, we have experiences, and I'll tell you, texts are the worst to decide and make decisions based off of something that they have seen, versus a chat GTP who is going to analyze a tremendous amount of data and come back with, maybe a statistical answer. It's even like in I use it even in risk reduction, trying to make sure that the solution that I'm doing, the access control, if you will, what is the smartest one to use in a scenario. We don't want to go for spend $1,000 on something that covers 10% of your risk when we could spend $20 and get 40% of your risk. Um, Covered. So I would say yes. I would say that we would be very smart as business people to embrace the technology, of course, understanding the dangers of it. But it's here, it's coming, hell, it's here. And it's going to be exponential growth over the next 10 years. And so, ignoring it, I would say, would be a very um very detrimental, possibly even to your business, if your competitors jump on board and let's just say they cut their payroll by 30%. What's that mean for the world? I mean, that could be really good. I mean, in one regard, it's very good for the world. I guess in another regard, if 30% of the workers were displaced. So again, I see this is a very very powerful thing, but ignoring it is not an option, because it is here and there is a ton of money getting invested in it, because everybody is in full belief that they're going to have a huge return on investment, and we're certainly not going to stop it.